Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and welcome back to another Hump Day. Joining me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our listeners. I think I have a really cute fall joke for you. What movie best describes Thanksgiving morning?
For whose household?
Well, now I want to know for each household.
Well, if I'm thinking about it, my grandmother's house on Thanksgiving when I was growing up, hectic. So I would say the movie I would best describe that one is probably Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It's so hectic. Everyone's looking for everyone. There was a lot of us kids, so everyone would go running off, and my grandmother had a really big piece of land, so everyone would be everywhere.
That sounds so exciting.
And then if you're talking about our current Thanksgivings, ours are pretty laid back. We have a lot of family, but we end up having a really good time, and it's nice and slow, and we kind of cook beforehand. So on the day of, a lot of it's just heating things up and enjoying either a game, drinking, barbecuing extra things. For that one, smooth like watching a Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, magical.
With a bunch of friends and family that you love.
The Fellowship.
Exactly.
Well, for this one...
It's probably way off.
Honestly, I love your answers just because it's so customized to our life. But to generalize so that it can work with everybody's lives, it's the Hunger Games.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. That's actually way better.
Oh, man.
Yeah, especially because of the climate and everything politically.
Don't talk about that at the dinner table, especially not around the holidays.
Economically, everything. Yeah, you're probably more right than wrong, but we don't ever have to deal with that kind of problem during our holidays ever. No. I think everyone has an understanding of everyone, and we just respect everyone's beliefs and understandings, and we just enjoy each other's company.
And we eat good food.
Great food. I'm looking forward to the holidays.
Oh, I cannot wait. I believe we have more people that's coming for the holidays this year since the family's expanded.
Oh, yeah.
I
can't wait.
Thrilled. Well, to give a little bit of information to our new listeners, if you're on here, that means you're looking for Reddit stories, and that's what I read. Timstradamus goes ahead and provides their perspective, and then I go ahead and provide a consensus from Reddit and my own perspective sometimes. And that's kind of the lowdown.
That'll do, pig.
That'll do.
I love saying that, but when I say it to people, it's because you put the pig at the end of it. You never feel right.
Babe.
But it's coming from a genuine place.
I love that movie. Yeah. When he turns around and goes, "That'll do, pig." Yep. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That pig shepherd those sheep. We'll have to watch Babe. Now I want to watch it.
It's been a little while.
Well, since it's Wednesday, and for whatever reason, the weather still wants to hold it hot, we would just like to remind everybody, it's Hydration Wednesday. So Damas has got his water canteen with him, but I would just like to remind everyone as well, you don't have to enjoy just plain water. You can actually infuse it with a lot of fruits. Fruit-infused water. Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your water, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For first story, am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce my wife and abandon her child after learning the child isn't mine? I, 32 male, have been married to my wife, 32 female, for 7 years. We have 1 child, 5 female. Let me tell you, I truly thought she was the love of my life. But over the last year or so, we did have issues and lost a lot of that spark. Needless to say, I was still close with my wife and daughter. Well, a few months back, a friend of mine, we can call Jack, 32 male, asked to meet me, which I found odd. He seemed quite drunk when I met him, and he essentially spilled his guts to me that he had been having an affair with my wife years ago, starting shortly after I got married to my wife. It was continuous. Man, at that point, I was boiling with rage and wanted to smack the shit out of him. I tried to resist my impulses, but ended up slapping him anyway, which he took, but I held myself back from hitting him again. When I confronted my wife, she tearfully admitted to all of it, but begged me not to leave her. She said it was a mistake, and you can imagine the rest. I told her I am packing my shit and leaving to my parents' place. I told her I wanted a paternity test too, which made her melt down even more. Well, I found out the child wasn't mine. I was seething with so much rage, Every time I look at the child, I was reminded of humiliation and rage. I no longer wanted to raise the child. I hope one day I can have a family and have a child that is actually my own. I communicated all of this with my soon-to-be ex-wife. She is calling me an a-hole and heartless for wanting to abandon my child. I told her I am not doing this. Am I the a-hole?
What the spicy meat to boo to get us kicked off with. So this story is very interesting because I think paternity fraud is a lot more commonplace than I originally thought it was. I feel bad for our OP. He basically got lied to for the better part of 5 years, I believe, because he said they've been together for 7. They had the kid year 2 because the kid's 5 now.
Correct.
And I guess one day a friend of his, best friend or not, I'm not sure if he quantified that, but I guess it really doesn't matter, says to him while he's inebriated, "Hey, I was sleeping with your wife after you guys got married." I couldn't even fathom that type of pain and hurt. I'm very lucky to have the partner I do. We have always said it. If we ever feel like we're drifting apart from each other and that's not something that we can fix, we would just rationally end our relationship. Doesn't mean we stop being parents to our children, but I would rather us go our separate ways than hurt each other like that.
I agree.
To know that you've been raising the person you thought was your biological daughter.
To know that your friend also betrayed you like this.
There's a lot.
On top of your wife.
I like how she's trying to turn it on him, that now he's abandoning them for her terrible decision making. It's not the way it is. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. You decided to make those terrible decisions and terrible outcomes happened. OP is only asking if he's the a-hole for being hurt by the situation and saying he's ready to just cut ties.
With both the mother and the child. Yes.
Do I feel bad for the child? Of course I do, because she just lost her father. That sucks. I don't know if I could do that. If I'm trying to put myself in that situation. And if I had found out that our son was anyone else's but who I believed it to be, would I abandon him at 5? But I don't know if I could do that to our son. I'm also not in that situation. I think you're allowed to have your feelings, and I think you're allowed to go your way. I just don't know if I could put that on the child. They have nothing to do with this. That is my child, regardless of the paternity. It's so hard because I can see it from someone else's perspective that if that's not
just a
theirs,
reminder of the hurt. And then if you're around the kid, how would you react to them after that? Would it be more aggressive than you initially thought? Would you be bringing up problems while you're speaking with this kid? It's a dual-edged sword here.
I just got to say I don't believe that he is the a-hole.
So the consensus on Reddit is really our OP's not the a-hole. I will say that many individuals told them to lawyer up.
Yes.
And our OP did confirm that Jack wanted to be a part of the child's life, which might help with OP stepping away from needing to fill that role. Now, I will go ahead and I'm going to hit on a couple points here, and this is only for conversation's sake. There were a lot of Redditors that were upset with the lack of creativity on this subject. Apparently, while you and I have been dealing with our own problems and just started getting back into the reading Reddit story game, I guess more of these paternity type stories are coming across Reddit and becoming more prevalent, especially since it's such a hot topic on paternity fraud. So first and foremost, I am for paternity tests that take out the emotional part of it, which is your partner accusing you of something that would be deemed very hurtful. Because as a woman, I can understand that, Timstradamus, if you turned around and you said that our child isn't yours and you're questioning it, that would hurt me deeply. But if it was out of our control and it just became a part of the normal process of giving birth to a child and confirming all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, I can't say anything about that. In fact, it would make me feel more confident that, one, our child is going to be our child with us, not switched at birth. And then on top of that, that you have that confidence knowing that, hey, while it's just extra, thanks for letting me know, it is mine. I also get that. I've tried to flip the shoe on the other foot. It's become more prevalent now only because we have the technology and the information. That's about it. It's always happened. That's never been a hidden thing. Unfortunately, men and women cheat. And there are children that get stuck in the middle of not having their proper parents or the people that they need loving them the way that they should. And that is the unfortunate fact of life.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear this type of story. I hope that everyone gets what they need out of it, though. You know, if he really does want to cut himself off completely from his daughter, not his daughter, but his daughter, it's a weird situation and it sucks, then that's his right to do that. I will never be on the side of forcing people to have relationships that they don't want in their life.
The thing is, I can't be angry at our OP for wanting to not even deal with it.
You're allowed to have that.
It would be a reminder. And I think for me, that's what would be the thing that would hurt the most. It would be a reminder of the betrayal. And unfortunately, it lives on in that child. And those are the consequences of, the actions of an adult that didn't care. Well, let's go on to our next story. And it's another relationship one. We'll see what you think about this one. Am I the a-hole for threatening to leave my wife after she threatened to never sleep with me again? My wife, 24 female, and I, 24 male, got into a fight last night because we were watching Hitman, that new movie with Glenn Powell, and a sex scene showed up. She got mad that I didn't look away and stormed off into the bedroom. She is very insecure, and the fight escalated really quickly. Eventually, things calmed down, but then she asked me if I could ever get turned on by watching porn. I said that hypothetically, I could get turned on, but that I have no desire to watch porn. Well, all she heard was that I could part of that sentence and said she was grossed out at the thought of me being able to get turned on by other women. She says it's impossible for her to get turned on by another man besides me. She says she's disgusted that I am not the same way as her. This led to her telling me that she is never having sex with me again. It pissed me off how quickly she jumps to extremes. And I said that I was going to leave and that I wouldn't stay in a sexless marriage. I told her long ago that sex is important to me in a relationship, and it's not even like I expect it every day. She usually has the higher sex drive. She is also saying that I am coercing her into having sex with me because I'm threatening to leave. I don't believe it's coercion at all. I think she is just trying to even the playing field after she threatened to kill herself in front of me because I turned her down for sex one night last year. To me, those are very different situations, but she insists I'm just as bad as her now. If she did force me to watch porn and I happen to get turned on, I don't think it's fair to judge or shame me for a natural reaction to stimuli. If I got turned on, there isn't much I could do to help it. Now, I admit that me jumping straight to divorce is also extreme on my end, and I since changed the situation to simply be me taking a break. So, am I the a-hole?
Oh my Lanta. So this story took a whole other turn towards the end when you're telling me that she's threatening to self-delete because he wouldn't have sex with her. No. This is a pretty... What started as maybe a little bit of maybe insecurities has devolved into a lot of control problems. I suggest that both of you need to go get into couples counseling right away. Maybe some individual stuff would help too, because what you're telling me that is being exhibited inside of this relationship is very unhealthy. I don't understand when a couple see something happening in a movie that is rated R, when you know that these things are happening within this movie, and you both can't rationally look at that screen and go, okay, that's a part of this movie. Why does it hurt that someone else enjoyed what they watched? Why can you not understand that that's not something you can control within your partner? So I wonder why she needs to have that type of hold over what you think and enjoy. That would have definitely sent up some red flags for me. I mean, the fact that you dealt with what she threw at you a year prior and you guys haven't gotten help for that is astonishing. Don't ever let anyone threaten you with them self-deleting. That is not a you problem. That is very dangerous. That is where this buck should have stopped. Did they go get help? Have they seen people? Did you just say this one occasion happened and we've moved through it?
There's no added detail on that front.
That kind of tells me where your relationship exists. Someone's going to get their way, or they're going to threaten one of the worst things you can do. I would just say this. Voyse and I watch plenty of things. I have heard Voyse on plenty of occasion when seeing Jason Momoa or anyone else that does not have a dad bod come up on a screen. She's allowed to enjoy those things. I really don't care. It doesn't get disrespectful.
No.
I don't hear anything disgusting or off-putting come out of my wife's mouth. You're allowed to have those reactions. I don't control you. I laugh about it every time because I'm like, well,
and I know you like to get a rise out of me every once in a while.
Enjoy, baby. Because I got a keg. So
I love the keg. And I don't consider it a keg. It's a barrel. Okay.
Anyway.
I love my barrel.
But I have no insecurities about that. No, I get it. Everyone's allowed to have your insecurities. We all have them in some form or fashion. But when you believe you can control people through it is a time when you need to go get help for it. Your wife is way out of bounds. It definitely sounded like she used this as a catalyst to ramp up into something that's very destructive. It may have started innocent enough. When you look, I've heard those things come out of couples. When I see them, I go, you may be accepting that type of thing within your relationship right now, but wait till
much later.
You've normalized that behavior and now you're using it to control each other. That's unhealthy. I would take a step back. If you're saying you want to tell her I think he's saying take a break.
Correct. First, I guess he threatened to leave her, and now it's just to take a break.
Can I blame somebody for, if this is what you're dealing with on a daily basis, where you're walking on eggshells, and her response to you seeing something on a screen? Because I didn't hear him say, well, I was hooting hollering and I was going, oh yeah, that was an amazing scene on the screen. I didn't hear him say he was doing those things.
He just didn't look away.
You can't control your partners. Honestly, I can't blame someone for wanting to get out of that type of relationship. I wouldn't want that. Every time something comes on the screen, I'm sweating bullets because you're insecure about something.
That would be awful.
That would mean we need to go get help and talk about things and work through them and become a stronger couple. We can have insecurities, but it's not okay to use them to control people.
So the consensus on Reddit was what the fuck?
I was a little nicer.
I think the overall consensus that I could feel is everyone sucks here. For Redditors, I mean, they were fairly speechless. All of this post screamed of an unstable relationship, and many suggested that they need some form of counseling, if not for him and his wife, for each other, just for the simple fact that she would even talk about unaliving simply because OP didn't want to be intimate. That right there, red flags everywhere. I find it absolutely baffling when I was reading this, because the thing is, for me, threatening someone with something because they threatened you with something, I think is just an escalation that's not needed. Not in that scenario, and definitely not in that relationship. I have heard of couples, and even you and I have had to deal with, when I give you the hypothetical question and I'm looking for a certain answer and I don't get it, that I need to I had to reevaluate. Just because I was looking for a certain answer doesn't mean that that was the right answer for you, and I needed to respect that. On top of that, and I think this is another fun part between yours and my relationship, we have learned together that when I ask you some of these hypotheticals, that you've taken the time to pause and question why it is that I'm asking this out of the blue. Sometimes it really is just boredom because I want to know, and other times it might be an insecurity, and it's been nice to have you actually pick up. But you've picked up on that because you and I have had our little spats to try and figure each other out.
Sure.
We've gotten into this comfortable cadence of communicating. And now, rather than trying to do, and I think this is one of the things that I am most proud of, rather than trying to find the hypothetical situation and trying to blindside you with this question, I come to you and I tell you what my feelings are, and then ask for your perspective afterwards. That way you know what you're walking into. Whether I'm insecure about a certain topic or not, it helps to understand the frame of mind that I, as your partner, am in before I start hitting you with some hypothetical question.
We started that a while ago. It took us a while to find that pacing in our relationship, like everyone. Once we learned how to say, look, this is how I feel, and then the scenario happens, I think that kind of opened the gateway to allowing us to have what we're talking about be heard and not fought through the feelings first. So yeah, I can agree. That's definitely a nice aspect of our relationship.
Now, I think the problem here stems that, and this was with a lot of Redditors, because there are, of course, a lot of Redditor women out there, and they say, look, whenever a woman reads a romance novel, what do you think that is? I read romance novels. There's nothing that makes our relationship crumble because of that. Mind you, the same way as you can take anything and make it some form of an addiction, it doesn't matter if it's corn, if it's a bunch of romance novels, if you're losing yourself in whatever that thing is in an unhealthy manner, it's unhealthy.
Yeah. It's when it becomes an escape.
There you go. It's either an escape or an obsessive compulsive feeling that you have to do it. It has to be it. It can't be anything else but that. That's when it becomes, for me, unhealthy. Anybody can do anything in moderation. Now, to turn around and say, I could never do that, and you have to abide by the standards that I have for myself, that is grossly unfair of anyone.
It's controlling.
Clearly, you don't care about that person. There's a lot of things that I would do that I don't expect for you to do, Timstradamus. You don't read romance novels. Although I have tried to convince you once or twice to read it just to get the romantic factors in there.
They're the most cringiest things. You start reading and you go, wow, this is what happens to the female gaze, huh?
It's just like the coincidental, oh my gosh, something happened. The over-the-top romances of just like the gestures.
I've heard some of that stuff. The guy gyrating up and down on a horse, his 12-pack abs. And
No, you're talking about the abs galloping across the plains.
There it is. I've heard some of this stuff you read. But I don't mind it, and I would definitely not ever tell you, you cannot consume these things because I don't. That's ridiculous.
For me, this situation turned extremely dark when it came to the unaliving. Because that is so serious. The fact that you would... Well, for one, the fact that OP would essentially talk about it in such a almost offhanded way.
That it was normalized.
Yes, it was. Well, last year she tried unaliving herself because I wasn't intimate with her. That is so many problems right there. One, you should never feel forced into being intimate with anybody. And I can understand if people have certain criterias for their relationship to essentially be the foundation of their relationship.
Yes.
There are a lot of couples that are very physical. There are a lot of couples that aren't physical at all.
But those are understandings that they've talked about with each other and they can accept within the relationship.
But when you try and use that against your partner, I'm going to take this thing away from you. And it's not just a one-off, like, I'm not in the mood to do this right now. To me, those are two different playing fields. OP's wife is like unhinged in my book.
Yes.
To use their life like that, to try and coerce someone into being intimate when they don't want to. And then on top of that, to use intimacy as a reason to hold back in a relationship because you're trying to get control there. That screams all red flags more than, for me, the OP. The fact that OP would accept any of that is astounding.
Well, that's why I sat there and said, there's no way he's the a-hole in my opinion. He's only having this reaction because of all of these other problems that have been coming at him. Of course, you're going to sit there and go, look, I can't be in this relationship anymore.
But now it's like it's normalized because now you can hear him backpedaling. Well, I wouldn't actually leave the relationship. I'd only just give us a break.
Yeah.
I went too far. No. If anybody's coercing you into intimacy, is making you feel bad by using that intimacy, and is using unaliving themselves, that is all grounds to leave.
Yep.
That is unhealthy, and that should never be normalized.
It sounds like to me that this relationship was based off a conditional love. You know, you meet my criteria, you get these things. It sounds like it turned into that and I'm not sure how long that's been going on, but it's very unhealthy.
Absolutely mind-bafflingly crazy, and they both need counseling, not just together if they want to make it work, but separately, because there's a lot of insecurities and extremes that the wife is going through, and then there's a lot of extremes that our OP is taking on that is not healthy.
Yep. He's willing to accept these values, and now they have become the bedrock of their relationship. But how do you know it's not healthy when you've never been in a healthy relationship? A lot of these people can probably fall right under that category.
Before you and I truly got together and our relationship started forming, I really was very much a doormat. And I am very lucky that I now have my own 2 feet under me that not only have you helped me instill a form of confidence in myself, but that you've made me feel confident that when you and I don't meet head to head, our relationship's not going to shatter and crumble, and you're not going to use that. But it is a learning fact between the two of us that we work through together.
Yep.
I think those healthy standards that you don't need to bend who you are when you realize that someone's being toxic or abusive towards you. And those are things that
while
I know
it's easy to say it
Yes.
in your head, in practice, it can be very hard.
And
we,
it was hard.
we can blur the line between abuse and love and what that means. Again, though, if you're not taught it in your home as you're growing up, a lot of us becomes normalized to be in that relationship. And if you don't have that type of friction, obviously something's wrong. It couldn't be further from the truth. But at this point, I feel for OP, and hopefully he can go get the help he needs to start putting down healthy boundaries. So that way in the next relationship, or if they choose to work through this one because they got a long way to go on it, they can actually look at each other and have respect. Because it doesn't sound like there's any in this one.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about a very different situation here. Am I the a-hole for forcing my son to give me half of his income? I won the lottery. $1,000 a day for life. I'm 58. My son is 19. I went to him and told him that I wanted to make a deal. I would give him the ticket. In return, he would give me half of the money until I die. Then he gets all the money. He said he needed to think about it. He came back and said it wasn't really fair for me to want half. He said that I could live another 40 years. That he might need the money more, and that I should take 20%. I said I would think about it. I signed the ticket and claimed the lump sum. I'm seeing a lawyer to set my son up for life. His education will be paid for. When he gets older, he will be able to purchase a home for free, basically. A trust fund will be set up, so he gets a good amount of money for the rest of his life. Now, he is pissed that I went back on my offer. I thought I was being smart, but I didn't realize how greedy he was. He also told my ex about the money, and she is pissed that I'm not giving her anything. We have been divorced for years. I owe her nothing. No, I won't give you anything if you ask. There is a reason I'm using a throwaway. Am I the a-hole?
He's asking if he's the a-hole for his son thinking he went back on his offer.
Correct.
Nothing was signed. In fact, you gave him a counter offer. What are you talking about? So there was nothing agreed upon and reached. They were just going through negotiations. The fact that he gave his son an offer, please. That is not your son's money. He did not win the lottery. That is your ticket. I understand that as parents, we want to make sure we help our kids. I'm all down for making sure you get them started on the right foot. We've tried with our son. We're going to try with our daughter. That's your responsibility. What I don't believe in is saying that if I won the lottery, that I'm going to give you 80% and I'll just get this $200. Thank you so much. Nah. And yeah, your son sounds very greedy, but in spite of that, ROP is still making sure his son's taken care of. Better count your lucky stars because there's a lot of parents that would have sold you down shit creek. So in my opinion, OP, you're not the a-hole.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. Redditors were saying that it's a good thing OP loves his son enough to actually give him an education because he's dumb for not realizing what a good deal that was when he had one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, the lifespan of that 19-year-old having that weekly sum would have been much longer. The father, in this case, our OP, was saying, look, we can split it. And then, of course, when I unfortunately hit the bucket, then the rest of it's yours. And then I know you're taken care of. And it's sort of our joint effort to make sure that we're both taken care of. Yes, the counter offer was absolutely dumb for something that they didn't earn.
I think the son might have looked at it and went, I'll never have to work a day in my life. But let's be fair.
But the thing is, he would have never had to work a day in his life with just the $500. I broke this down because I was curious. I was like, how much would $500? That's $182,000. Our OP son would have lived comfortably with that. What are you trying to use this money for more than that? In this case, they're making twice as much as for what most okay people would be making for doing nothing. Mind-boggling. And then on top of that, our OP decided, look, if he's not going to take the deal, it's fine. I will just go ahead and take the lump sum And then on here, I can make sure that he's taken care of.
He's still taking care of his son even after all of that.
To then, I think for me, what really makes me upset, finances are one of those things that you should really keep between either the person that you're talking to or to yourself. A lot of people who have won the lottery, I know that I've seen where they've accepted it anonymously, or you see where they put like masks on because they don't want people to know who they are.
Yeah.
And honestly, kudos to them. Your safety by far is the most important thing because you don't know how money will change people. Our OP son turned to his mother, which would be the ex, and now she's asking for handouts. Why? Why would an ex want to show up and essentially demand more from someone else?
Because everyone thinks they have an onus to your money. That's how it works.
Well, let's go on to our last story. And I know you're not really a coffee drinker, but let's see what we think about this coffee drinker. Today, I f***ed up by being an instant coffee enjoyer. I am an incredibly oblivious person. My own parents once switched up a rug I love to lay on, and it took me half a year to notice. So anyway, as I've gotten older, I've started to drink coffee. As I've gotten broker, this went from $1.50 cans to a Starbucks instant coffee. And then finally, I began questioning why I was sticking with this brand, which was small, that I couldn't always find in the store. I saw a large container of coffee. It looked cool enough, and I've gone through 2 batches of that over the past year. While I didn't drink coffee ritualistically, there was still an entire 365 days of not realizing anything was up. Around this time, I start hearing more people talk about getting Keurigs, which I thought was strange since you can just use instant coffee in a kettle, but just thought it was one of those new trendy things. So here's the routine I stuck to. Add coffee, then add boiling water, and maybe creamer. I mainly needed it to wake up, and over time the bitter flavor, hot water, and crunchiness grew on me. I just thought the Starbucks coffee was extra nice, and that's why it was so smooth, and that this is what people meant when they brought up instant coffee. I'd heard of coffee filters before, but those are for when you're fancily using whole beans or making Christmas snowflake decor. Eventually, just as I was starting to feel done with the game of waiting for the coffee grounds to sink and avoid whatever side of the mug had some floaters, I came across a TikTok hack. It mentioned mixing creamer or cold water into the instant coffee so that it dissolves smoother. Dissolves, I thought. It was only then that I realized instant coffee was supposed to dissolve, and that coffee should never come with extra crunch. What I had been drinking for the past year was coffee grounds, raw and unfiltered, warts and all. Anyway, over the last few days, my mornings have been way more pleasant. The too long don't read. Today I fucked up by drinking unfiltered coffee grounds that I thought was instant coffee for the past year and a half.
What a fun way to find out we're fucking up life.
Oh my goodness.
The fact that you were able to deal with that taste for a little over a year?
They were getting used to the crunchiness.
Ugh. I hate coffee. I do not subscribe to that.
I love coffee.
But every time I have had coffee, and it's never been with grounds.
The only time that I've ever had coffee grounds is when it's overflowed, like the top part is overflowed and it's kind of gotten into the kettle. And then you might encounter like 1 or 2 and you're like, oh, that's really gross. I should have just remade the whole batch, but you're too cheap because you're like, life is tough, you know?
Yeah. It's time and money.
But they got like probably a tablespoon of the grounds. They put it in the coffee pot. They put the water in and they waited for it to sink as much as possible and get stuck to the side as much as possible before they drank around the remaining bits.
That is such a wild procedure to make what you think is good coffee in the morning. I knew there was something up the second he goes, I'm not using the filter. That seems like something you'd only do for special occasions or a holiday.
For me, it was when he said, I mainly needed it to wake up, and over time, the bitter flavor, which of course coffee can get better. Actually, if you make sure not to overcook it in a lot of heat, it stops becoming bitter and becomes more smooth. But that is neither here nor there. So the bitter flavor, the hot water, and crunchiness. And in my mind, the way that they italicized it also helps. The moment that crunchiness came through, I was like, no, you didn't.
What kind of coffee you drinking that's
No,
crunchy?
you didn't. Why would this happen?
I'm not sure where they learned how to make coffee, but that's really funny that you're watching, I think you said TikTok. It dawns on you in the middle of it that you've been goofing for a minute.
They're like, hey, I just mixed in some cold water and creamer and it dissolves much smoother. I find it funny because they put dissolves, I thought.
I love the crunch now. It's a part of it.
No, it's all like in between your teeth.
I just can't imagine that texture being on my teeth after I drink something, because there's no way you didn't get that all over your teeth.
The bowel movements, they must have been like magnifique. You know what I mean?
Oh, I bet it's like taking Miralax every morning.
You eat like how much coffee, literally ingest physical coffee, not just the liquid, but physical coffee in a year. Whew.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
Great one to end it off on.
Exciting, right? It just goes to show that adulting really is learned over time.
Oh, yeah. There's always fun ways to learn that you've been doing something very wrong for however many years you have in your very young life. Even now, I'm certain that if I really thought about it, I've been doing certain things wrong my entire life.
There were things that you have shown me that I've been shocked about, and I'm like, wait, I could have done this much easier.
Isn't that fun, though?
No.
When someone shows you something like that, a life hack, you're going, hold on. Holdle.
Step back like 3 steps.
I promise. I know how to spell my name. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Mondays and Wednesdays, and on Fridays we have our Damas After Dark.
Yes. I have to match that.
I was trying to go for more spooky because we're getting closer and closer to October.
I know, we might do some different things on there.
I'm excited. We would also love to thank all of our Patreons for your continued support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of y'all.
Mwah!
And as always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
My favorite was the last one.
I don't know if I have a favorite. I think all of these, again, you've done a great job of finding unique stories that make you ponder other people's situations and also have you grateful for the ones that you're in your personal life.
Oh, yes.
I could not imagine having to walk through some of these people's shoes.
Oh, just the fact, I must say, winning the lottery has always been a scary thing. And this is, what was that movie with Awkwafina and John Cena? It's the lottery one.
Oh, yeah.
I find it funny because in my mind, that's how I always imagine someone winning the lottery. There's always someone that's coming out to get you.
Well, the good thing is we don't live in a state that plays lotteries, so we're probably not going to win one.
Probably not. You and I also aren't gamblers.
But maybe if, the fates want to do something, I'm not going to say no.
My arms are wide open.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
I want to make a cake.
I know we're going to try to do some of that stuff now that you're feeling better. We're going to try to put some holiday cakes together, maybe make like a haunted mansion. Yeah, haunted
Baby
cupcakes.
needs some cake in her life.
Yo, she do. Daddy do too.